Geithner should resign or be fired. In a letter to his colleagues, Representative Mack says Geithner has, quote, lost the confidence and faith of the American people.
Is he right? Here to debate that, Democratic Congressman Joe Sestak from Pennsylvania and Republican Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. Good to see you both. Congressman Sestak, I know you're a supporter of Tim Geithner, even though you admit he's made some mistakes. But just now we are finding out that while he said that he didn't hear about the bonuses until March 10th, he said that this week, we now find testimony from March 3rd, a week before that, in which he announced knowledge of the bonuses. So just within the past hour or so, more indication that he's telling different stories.
What I understand is he never got the full story until later on, but I accept right up front that he made a mistake. He also made a mistake where he's made a judgment that he couldn't go back in and renegotiate these contracts. All that being said, there are two reasons why I strongly support him at this time. First off, we know that he has dealt with financial crisis from Indonesia to Mexico to Thailand to Korea. We knew that the Federal Reserve, under his guidance in New York City, has actually been the bright light in what's kept the lights going on in America. But second, and this is the most important point besides his competence, it is that right now, fear and instability are the worst adversaries we have in this economy. We've actually backed away a bit from the financial panic. We still have a financial crisis. And right now, to jettison over someone who is working with only 5 of the 27 positions, his assistant general, so to speak, in position, doesn't do him justice. I came from the Defense Department. Mr. Gates was permitted to keep all his positions filled with the outgoing Republicans until Democrats came in, because we're in a war overseas. We owe this man the same due diligence, and we didn't do that.
Representative Blackburn, listen, making a lot of mistakes is an understatement right now, although there are a lot of problems out there. Treasury Secretary Geithner has been unsure, at least he appears that way, not giving enough details, a whole host of problems. But isn't it a little disingenuous for Representative Mack to say Geithner's lost the entire confidence of all the American public? I mean, you can't speak for the entire nation over that. And to Sestak's comment, to Representative Sestak's comment, isn't now the exact time not to make a change that would only cause further instability?
Liz, I think that one of the things we have to realize when you look at this situation is that confidence will come from competence. And the American people are doubting his ability to handle this situation. He has caused more problems than he has solved. And whether he goes on his own accord or the president asks him to step aside, I think that we are at a point where we need to do something differently. He needs to exit, and we need to make certain that someone with a steady, schooled hand has this under control. It is not time for us to have one revelation after another. What did he know? When did he know it? You know, said he didn't know till last week. Then we have the testimony from Congressman Joe Crowley from that hearing where he obviously knew about it the week of March 3rd. That's what you were talking about from the New York Times today. And then, of course, Peter's report with the email where it was discussed back in November when he was still with the New York Fed. Right. So there is a string of actions here that erode the confidence the American people have in him.
All right, but Congressman Sestak, I'm wondering if we pull back just a little bit, whether it's the person or the office. That is, we're looking at some of the documents now from Neil Kashkari's office, the guy who's in charge of TARP. Here's a guy who has 40 people working for him in charge of a $700 billion program. And you just wonder whether we need to really rethink whether we want to get any further into a program where mistakes, terrible billion-dollar mistakes, have already been made. And these programs are so big that no matter how brainy you are, you couldn't handle the job.
I obviously, David, as you know, come down on the side of that government intervention, bold and aggressive, is the shortest and quickest way out of this tragic storm that we're in. I strongly believe that. That said, we have placed Mr. Geithner on a ship that has been bouncing at sea in the middle of a war. And just like the Great Depression, which took us 10 years to get over, that my belief is what is happening is that, yes, some mistakes are being made, but if we had not intervened And if we would be at greater
Disagree.
catastrophe and damage in our economy than if we had.
I really disagree.
We are making mistakes.
I really
We're not
disagree
perfect.
with the
This is an
point that
unusual,
you
ahead,
abnormal
Representative
situation,
Blackburn.
but we need to continue to
Yeah,
pursue this course.
I think we need to look here. I was against all of this from the beginning. And my goodness gracious alive, they passed a bill that nobody had read. There was language in the bill that nobody knew. I am glad I was a no vote.
Yeah, but
and
you voted against the TARP, is that correct,
actions.
Representative? You voted against the TARP?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
but
I
some
did.
would argue that there were mutual funds that were breaking the buck and that the TARP, at least the passage of
I
it,
understand
saved that
that, Liz.
situation.
I understand
could.
that, but there were alternatives, and we brought alternatives forth that could have been carried forward at the time of TARP, and you would not have put the $700 billion fund, and you're talking about Neil Kashkari and his management or lack thereof of how this was implemented. We had alternatives. Conservatives brought forward alternatives. Republicans brought forward alternatives.
Okay, Representative
so that
Sestak.
those troubled...
Yeah.
Quickly, very quickly, if you could.
No, yes. The day I voted for that first TARP bill that failed, the market fell almost 9%. That day, the Federal Reserve, in order to have banks open the next day, had to print $687 billion, almost equivalent to that TARP money that was intended to begin to buy the toxic securities to have banks be open. No. We are printing over...
And there
we have
was a way
committed
to
over
do
$2
it
trillion.
without
Let him
passing
finish, and I'll give you the
TARP.
last word, Miss Blackburn.
Okay.
Finish up, Mr. Sestak. All right, he can't hear. Marsha Blackburn, go ahead. Make your final statement.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We
Could I
had
make my...
recommended-
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead, Marsha
Joe.
Blackburn.
Go ahead with your statement. Okay. What we had recommended was that you have a reinstitution of mark-to-market. You reinstitute the uptick rule, that you make certain that those embattled institutions would go in and they would handle their own toxic assets, do a reinsurance and a loan program around that, but not carry forth like the TARP program did. It has not worked.
That's got to be
were
the
very
last
concerned
word.
that it would work.
Marsha Blackburn, Joe Sestak, I'm afraid we're up against a hard break. Thank you, gang.
Thank
We
you.
have some breaking
Both.
news.